network was hacked. Hackers took away quite a lot of sensitive information. But then, now, suddenly, journalists found sensitive internal emails of the company, wherein one of the revelations, I'm saying there are several, just one of them, they found that through the email interaction, certain not so decent language, wherein they treat female artists lesser than their equivalent male artists. That is, equivalent placed in terms of the capability, but they pay them less, except one lady or whatever. They found several kind of remarks, some of them almost bordering on character assassination, on many of the the artists, and they were able to find unreleased movies. All this were found on sites like torrent, rapid fire. The journalists are now running to download that and find out what's new, because they want news, isn't it? It's sensation. And that's becoming a huge problem now, because if you are the CEO of Sony, what do you tell a journalist? Don't download. What do you tell them? Nothing. You can't do anything about it. After the event has happened, you have no control over the situation. The entire newspapers are full of all this, and Sony's reputation in the market is kind of taking a nosedive it has never seen before. Because the company is now seen as a kind of bully. And that's the most dangerous thing, because for a company to be taking that kind of character completely takes it out of the market. So Sony doesn't know what to do. Hackers were very clear. They said, go take it. We have parked it all there. How much is parked? Nobody knows. So that kind of reputation, non-financial, erosion of intangibles, your information, IPR, brand equity, reputation, morale, everything is going down.
Even Obama doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, that's true. You are right.
They are also declaring they will do it again and again.
Not only that, in fact, the government, everybody is trying to distance themselves. The government, US government said, no, we already told them, take care. Right? So it's kind of, everybody is kind of distancing themselves. It's always, like this. If you have a close friend and suddenly is caught up in some kind of problem, general tendency is, I don't know him. So that's what is happening with them. But what has happened, we have seen is, this is where it is. I generally call it as the it won't happen to me syndrome. You go and tell your client, sir, in your industry, this company has got hit like this. You better look at it. So the problem is, till it happens, it never happens. After it happens, you don't live to see it. That is the problem. And how do you put the sense into the corporates to tell them that, no, this is where you have to look at it? There are many corporates who take it very seriously. But somewhere, they ask the question, how much is too much? Because you are trying to find out something which you don't know what it is, and you keep on finding. That's a problem, no? If you are searching something at home, and somebody asks you, what are you searching for? No, I don't know, I'm trying to search for something. So this is where the problem is. You have to be very, very clear in terms of what you are looking for. So coming to forensics, as I said, it is more to do with fact finding, and we got tremendous history. Kautilya was, Chanakya was one of the greatest thinkers of his times. And believe me, Arthashastra of Kautilya has a complete chapter on fraud detection and forensics. So it is part of the human DNA, nothing new about it. So which also makes it all the more interesting, because why are we keeping on committing these mistakes again and again? We have tremendous of them, like I'm sure your children's stories, if you really look at them. In fact, I personally found some of these stories so relevant for me in my work. Because some of them teach you lessons which you don't get anywhere else. When you grow up, you think, Birbal stories, when will you touch Birbal stories? For your kid or your grandchild. Okay, then you start looking. But you start looking at this, there is tremendous amount of insights into that. If you start reading Sherlock Holmes, my goodness, it's amazing. Anyway, so there are jargons like fraud investigation, forensic accounting, fraud forensics, digital forensics, fraud prevention, fraud risk management. You can go on. Each of them is an area of practice in itself. But it has different capabilities required. What comes easily to us is the second area. Forensic accounting. Nothing but pointedly looking for something with regard to your accounting and scheme of accounting, the entries, the books of account, the subsequent, the operational registers, the subsidiaries, everything. To look at all that and find out if there is something untoward that has happened. One is, as we say, a blind search to look for frauds. Second is a targeted search. A fraud has happened like this. You start chasing through and finding out what is the channel adopted, what is the modus operandi, who is involved behind it, trace the evidences. So all this deals with the forensic accounting stuff. Typical traditional fraud forensics also involves, for example, fingerprint study. I study quite a lot of things around it. So that involves fraud forensics. Your digital forensics involves capability to study or look for traces within the IT architecture, the computer system, everything to do with your endpoint. You know which state in India has the maximum number of registered complaints under cyber law? Yes? You'll be surprised. Even I was surprised. Of course, the statistic is 2 years old, but that's what we have as of now from the government. Anybody? No? Kerala, the most literate state. So at least good thing about them is they do take action, immediately go and file a complaint. I'm sure if you start really looking at the number of crimes that have happened in Tamil Nadu, it is far, far higher, because we have some friends whom we work with in the cyber crime cell here. Per day, the number of mobile fraud complaints or mobile related crime complaints that they get, they say is something on the order of 2,000 all over Tamil Nadu. 2,000 per day. And there is a separate cell which works on credit card frauds alone, because that's a ripe area. Banking fraud, credit card frauds. And there is an excellent gentleman who works here, who tremendous guy with knowledge. Maybe sometime we should invite him also. So, tremendous learning from them, because as you start talking to these people, you find you're missing one important thing, the psychology behind fraud, which they look at very carefully. We only start searching evidence. Evidence without understanding psychology is a dead end in forensics. Okay. Of course, fraud prevention is huge opportunity there for all of us. Fraud risk management, fraud prevention, helping the company to put in all those controls to ensure that there is no fraud happening. So that's a huge area which you can. The first one is what it deals with, investigating a fraud, which involves more than just capabilities to look at evidence, legal capabilities. Your capabilities of interviewing, capabilities of ensuring that you are able to bring out all the evidence in a form that will be accepted in the court of law, which is a capability in itself. So unless we have that dual capability, well, you're welcome to be in that area. But the easiest place where you can start, forensic accounting, fraud prevention, fraud risk management. Anybody can start there. All of us have capabilities to do that. So I'm not going to details, because I just said, broadly in terms of responsibility, that's where you find. In terms of fraud detection, everybody is charged with that responsibility. Fraud detection, it requires analysis, monitoring, audit, whistleblower procedures. I'm sure we know what is whistleblower. Whistleblower is a person who comes to know of this fraud happening and he reports somewhere to somebody in the organization. The problem is, if somebody, recently there was a lady in broad daylight, you might have seen in the TV, a knife, a guy held it out. She took off all the jewels, gave it away. Nobody came to her rescue except one person, at least he recorded it. Right? If you go and ask somebody who has been a witness there, what will he tell you? Something was happening, I don't know what happened actually. Because my big problem is I should not get into trouble. It is the traditional problem of which has been now rectified thanks to the judicial process. Somebody is dying in an accident. If you go and help him, you get into trouble. So they have now really provided a great protection around it, which is very welcome. Similarly, the law also provides and protects whistleblowers, people who expose the wrongdoers. Believe me, world over surveys have shown your internal audit, your fraud risk management systems, processes, they do deliver. But the maximum that delivers in terms of detecting fraud is whistleblowers.